Alright, so for this week's Sunday break, we are actually going to be playing it's actually not an old game. It's actually relatively new, as you can see by the update at the bottom. Panzer Corps. But yeah, it's the last update was the March last year. They're currently doing a Soviet Corps update. We're going to load straight into my game here. And this is the Grand Campaign, 1940, in France. Now, the game is not extremely sophisticated on the visuals, as you can see. But what it is very sophisticated in is the depth of strategy. And I'm going to try to illustrate that as much as I possibly can here. So, these are Panzer Grenadiers. These are paratroopers. I have another infantry unit in reserve that are basically pioneers, which for the Germans were their engineers. Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs, Jagdpanzers, planes, artillery, whole 9 yards. So anyway, that's actually a French anti-tank gun. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm actually going to bombard them. As you can see, the visuals, not all that great. But what you don't see is this. Here's the unit stats. And they're very, very in-depth about how things work, about how terrain work, and just to illustrate this, combat details. So this explains what's going on here. So my initiative is 5, because the effective initiative 3, my base initiative is 3, terrain bonus 2, 5. He has a terrain cap because he's in a city, and infantry are the only things that really perform exceptionally well in a city. So then we go, my soft attack is 5 because it's a soft target. He's not a tank or an armored unit, so he counts as a soft target. 5, I get 3 from my experience, 8. Close defense, which is this number, is 0, and then he's entrenched. So he gets a little bit. And then his soft attack sucks, he's an anti-tank gun. Then it's infantry versus anti-tank gun. I have a hero in the unit, experience, whole 9 yards. So we're going to open fire. The sounds, surprisingly, are really well done. I mean, they sound like stuff off the History Channel videos, as you can hear by the dive bomber and the machine guns. Units gain experience. It's very, very crucial to keep your units alive as long as possible, because some of your most experienced veteran units are also really good at their jobs. Anyway, so I'm going to take my paratroopers. I want to capture this airfield, so to do that, I'm going to send them way deep here. And I'm going to send them with a fighter escort just to make sure that they're safe. Notice I'm staying actually away from the airfield because I suspect, because most of the campaign games there's an AA gun there. Also, the AI in this game is no slouch. If you make a mistake, if you expose a unit too much, if you get cocky and just advance recklessly, you can fully expect to lose a unit almost instantly. The AI has absolutely no mercy or pity for you, and it's a very well done AI by Slytherin, I have to admit. So we're gonna take on this anti-tank gun. Now these guys, SE means special equipment, and you can see the difference. They get a little bit more anti-infantry than the standard unit base, so that affects them long term because their higher experience value means they're worth more now. And they're just going to wipe out, these two guys are going to wipe out this anti-tank gun. I'll move them in to capture the city next. Oh look, infantry. Strato bombers are really good for de-entrenching people. Didn't do any damage, but its entrenchment value dropped, which means that it's going to be easier for me to take it out. And yes, I'm playing the Germans. The base campaign and the Grand Campaign, you're playing the Germans. Oh, there's nothing at that airface. Surprised. Make sure they have fighter escort. And do we have another fighter? We do. So we're going to move you there. And this extra fighter escort's going to move up here. Like I said, graphically not the most sophisticated game, but you get what's going on from looking at the graphics. They're completely suppressed. That is what strategic bombers do. That suppression means that the unit doesn't even fight back. And I'll show you in a second when I suppress somebody else how suppression works. Neutralize means that if there's something entrenched there, it doesn't get any bonus. That's the other thing strategic bombers do. They can really destroy entrenched positions. See? I got cocky, I moved a unit up, and I paid for it because they're in their transports, they can't even fight back. Thankfully, my fighters are keeping them from doing any real damage to those airplanes. Anti-tank, tank. Not a good day for the cruiser, even with the inexperienced Jagdpanzers. And there's that AA gun. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop off our infantry. I tried to drop them there, they deviated. I got them to drop there, and we're going to get this guy out of here. We're also going to switch you to anti-tank mode. That's right, the German Flak 88 switches to anti-tank mode. And as you can see over here, I'll select this, not my unit, his. But you can see down there, if you look over here, when I hover over him it says -4 in blue. That means 4 of his guys are suppressed, which is why he's yellow. He's only partially suppressed. Red means either completely suppressed or nearly completely suppressed. And yellow means that there's a couple of guys who are suppressed, but they're still going to fight back some. So we're going to hit him again. And now you see that went all the way up to 7. That means 7 of his little dingoes are not going to fight back. But a couple will. And they retreated because, well, they're getting beat on. I'm going to move my infantry out front so that we're protecting them. My artillery, get moved to there. The reason I move my artillery right there against them is because if anyone attacks these 2 units, this thing will fire first and try to suppress some of it. Okay, and Panzer Grenadiers. We need to get the tank to move up first. And that tank is not going into a city fight without support. Panzer IIIs are really good at taking out armor. They're not really good at taking out infantry. Panzer IVs, on the other hand, are really good at taking out infantry. They're not the best against armor. So there's a motivation to kind of use both when you can. We're going to take out this bomber. And my BF-109s are pretty damn good at this point. I need this French fighter down to make sure that I can take out that other bomber soon, though. Can I get there? I can get there. Surprise! And the game is, and it seems really simple on the surface, but there's a lot of strategy going into this game and going into these movements. You have to know what you're doing, and you will quickly learn that losing units is painful, really painful. If I were to lose like this, this 3.25 star strategic bomber unit, it would take me a couple missions to replace that unit. I could buy it, sure, I could buy another strategic bomber right now. Well, no, I don't have any core slots. But as soon as the unit dies, I would have a core slot. I could buy the strategic bomber, but it would come with no experience. And the difference in an experienced unit and a no experienced unit is huge. Because you can see here, attack bonus, it doesn't get an initiative bonus because it's versus the ground. Defense bonus, and it's just an overall, and I can increase them instead of strength 10 because he has 3 stars, he can go strength 13. Much needed improvement for that unit. And tanks in the hills is not where you want tanks. And I scared him off into the Panzer IIIs, who should have finished him, but this thing also has an RNG, and sometimes RNG says no. There we go. That got rid of it. So there is a bit of randomness to it, and you have to compensate, and you have to work around the randomness sometimes, because sometimes the randomness can really screw you. And the reason that thing was so powerful, so I go over here, he gets an extra attack bonus on top of his normal 3-star 6. So he ends up with like 10, and the Matilda's just not gonna. Matilda, yeah, he's got 21. Whoop-de-doo. It's an air attack. He's only got 12 air defense. So the unit's base attack, the unit's attack is going to be significantly higher. And we're going to make sure he has an escort. And you're going to sit. See, also the weather changes. And I can click over here to find out what the weather does. Let's see, strategic bomber, you sit tight. You sit tight, enter. That kind of hurt. The swamp protected me a little bit from that air attack. Infantry and swamp tank on bridge. They're paratroopers though, so they don't have a very good anti-tank ability, and they just landed, so they were suppressed. And these are the French hedgerows, but also this is clear terrain, so it doesn't really affect it, but the city terrain. And you can look a lot of this stuff up in their library, which just shows how much in depth they went. You can look up terrain changes, base entrenchment, how it affects initiative, movement, and how terrain affects movement for all units. It gives an in-depth explanation of all the unit classes. Yes, there are ships. No, you can't actually own and keep them, but there are missions where there are ships. And rail units, which makes things... I mean, they made this as realistically insane as possible. This is the standard... I'm showing this off, but this is the standard campaign. And you can see if you get decisive victories, it leads to Operation Sea Lion, which is the invasion of the UK. And the actual Moscow victory will, if you win, will eventually lead you to invade the United States, hypothetically. The Allied campaign currently, you can even go to the Allied dispute where you actually take Berlin and then fight the Soviets over the fact you took Berlin. Africa campaign, you can play as either the, I think you play as the... Yeah, you play as the Germans, and you can see, you can go all the way to Iraq. I haven't played the Africa campaign yet, but you can take British India. What? Yeah, you can go all the way to India. There's just a lot of interesting hypothetical stuff. There's also the comet, the meteor. See, you get all the way through the technology trees in the campaigns. And it mentions every single unit that it possibly can. They're not all in here. Not all the different variants, because you can see I have like Panzer 4Ds and Panzer 3Fs now. Yeah, not all the different variants are right here in the library, but they're in the game. And that 88mm, it's just wrecking people. I should have sent that fighter after that bomber. Oh well, I got two fighters right here who are free. That's taken care of. And see, it's not so much the visuals that give you a real sense of what you're doing as the sound effects, which I think is really kind of nice and different for a video game to rely on its sound effects more than its visuals. French Alpine snipers versus Panzer Grenadiers. They're having a bad day. And here's another important thing. Before that cruiser had max ammo, the strategic bomber blew up his ammo and his fuel supply. Strategic bombers do all sorts of secondary damage instead of actually hurting the unit, which is kind of nice. Makes them really nice to have. And it's much more realistic for a strategic bomber to destroy that instead of actually hurting the unit it's bombing. And that's the end of that turn. See, turns don't take all that long if you're just playing through knowing what you're doing. They can take a while, particularly in the later grand campaigns when you have 40 and 50 units. And like I said, get cocky. There goes a unit. Granted, these Jagdpanzer units are brand new. They don't know what they're doing. I got a core slot now. We're going to replace it with a Jagdpanzer who's brand spanking new, just like his buddies were. Like, he just got his first star of experience, first 100 experience points and got a star, so now he has a +1. Whereas a lot of my other units are well into their 3rd star veterancy. Because a lot of my other units have been with me since Poland, and I can show you that, actually. So here we have this Panzer 4D's 30th Panzer Division. Oh, this one I just got recently, where they've been doing a lot of fighting. This was actually a French tank unit that we captured, and then I turned it around into and upgraded it to a Panzer IV. Let me find 11th Panzer Division. So this is Panzer 3F. 239 kills, 43 losses. Boatload of XP. Commissioned September for invasion of Poland. They even have a hero who gives them an extra initiative bonus. They have the Iron Cross 2nd class. Yeah, your units will get awarded medals, and as they get more medals, they unlock the ability to have more heroes who then boost the unit's total initiative, and the medals boost their morale, which is important if you don't want units to retreat. There are times where you really wish they would, but for the most part, you want them to hold their ground. And that's what the whole system, and that's what the medals are really about, is holding their ground and giving them a morale boost. So we're going to move you here, and that is a hard target for paratroops, I gotta admit. So we're going to go for that airfield to refuel. Let's bomb some tanks on a bridge. Now here's the initiatives. Even initiative, so both sides go at the same time. My attack is only going to go up to a 4 against his 7. Yeah, I'll kill 3, suppress 2. He'll kill 1 of mine. I didn't quite get the number of kills I wanted, but I did force him off the bridge. So we're going to move them there. This unit's now out of ammunition, which is probably a mistake on my end. And it counts the ammo based on the number of engagements that the unit can engage in, both attack and defense. But it basically means that at a certain point you're going to have to stop and resupply the unit. And that becomes a very strategic decision. Do I resupply now or do I push? I'm pulling them back to reinforce them, which is another feature I'm going to show you. Because in the middle of missions, sometimes you need to bring up replacements. That was a lucky hit on my part, I will admit. Oh, a really lucky hit. They just got a hero who's going to increase their movement. And the first hero is usually not that great. It's usually just a +1 to something. However, You also get special units and second and third heroes. Who, let's see, do I have a reserve list guy? Who's an upgraded? No, I don't have anybody with 2 heroes, it seems. Oh, no, here we go. So +1/+1. Let's find a really good hero. There's a 2 defense. Here we go. Commissioned the 9th of September. And they got this guy, who I'm assuming has some historical reference with the name, but wow. Just huge hero. Not exactly somebody you just want to walk up with and mess with. We're going to reinforce you with elite replacements, which means they don't lose experience for taking on reinforcements. And prestige is this number up here. As you can see, I've scored 27,000, which is a huge amount. I haven't really been taking a lot of casualties because I've normally been making good decisions, unlike with my poor Jagdpanzer unit up there, who just, I'm sorry, you guys just didn't have a good day. The British said no. And by the way, I made a conscious decision. I'll show you. Grand Campaign, 1940. I made a conscious decision here at Sedan to go this way. I'm now on this mission. But this is fighting the British. This is fighting the French, primarily. And then if I get a decisive victory, I'll get to go to Dunkirk. Otherwise, I go straight to Reims. And the advantage to going to the decisive missions are they're normally easier missions, and you usually get special units out of the deal for going through those missions. So there's a real motivation to score those decisive victories. Also, decisive victories tend to give you more prestige because you've captured more points, such as this airfield or this town, that are worth prestige. We're going to resupply because forests are not good positions for tanks. We're going to move you to block the artillery. And that's the end of my turn. Takes up my turn. You saw that artillery unit fired first, which means when they actually engaged, they didn't engage with their full strength. Something was suppressed. Or should have been suppressed, I should say. And these Matilda 2s are just really tough nuggets to crack. What I'm doing here is I'm going to bombard them down. And I'm going to move my 88s in. And see, even with the 88, these are still tough tanks. As in World of Tanks, Matildas are usually really tough tanks. Now the cruisers, not so much. Wow. Brand new unit whiff. And at this point we're just trying to advance against these heavily dug in positions. I'm thankful that these are heavily dug in positions, unlike the last mission where it was just constant. I think I'd have them finished off, and then 6 or 7 tanks would come flying at me, and I'd be like, where did you get 7 new tank divisions? And it was just because it was a British counterattack, and I was supposed to mostly defend against the British counterattack. Defend. Wasn't really defending. Was kind of, taking it to them. Okay, and we're going to call this video here, but I wanted to show off Panzer Corps. I'll probably do a second one, but I don't want to make this too terribly long, just in case people, find Panzer Corps rather boring, because it's not all visually stimulating. But this is a really good game. There's a lot of expansions for it. There's a lot of support for it, and it's just a surprising amount of fun, considering that the game relies more on sound and numbers to convey what's going on. And as I said, the AI is actually really intelligent. I'm outwitting them pretty well right now, but that last mission, I had to withdraw on the offensive about 4 times to reinforce units because they were about to be annihilated. And there were 3 or 4 times where it was, I have to do something right now or I'm going to lose this 3-star unit because they're down to 2 guys. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. This is Fiaura the Tank Corps.